Oh baby, the top 10 players in Vanguard before the stage 1 major. I mean, this has been an absolutely insane group stage with so many upsets. So the top 10 is so tough with so many great players right bunched up near the top. So without further ado, guys, we have a lot to talk about. Let's get right into this one. Let's go. So before we get into the top 10, I'm actually genuinely excited to announce that we have a new partner on the channel called PrizePicks. And before you skip the ad, I really want to say that I only pick sponsors that I genuinely like their products and actually want to use and think that they're cool and would bring value to the audience. So like, this isn't just some money grab. I actually think this is a cool product because it's unique to the esports space in the sense that you can actually play daily fantasy with player props. You can actually pick like, do you believe Scump's gonna have more or less than 35 kills in this game? And then what's cool is you can actually pair it with sports. So that's what I thought was really dope about it as well, because obviously I like sports. So you can like compare, like, do you think LeBron's gonna score more or less than 35? And you can actually pair these together and have some really cool prop plays as well. And so they actually have a really good offer, which is why I was like, oh, this is actually a good offer, because they'll actually match your first deposit up to $100. So like if you put, $25 into your account, they'll match that $25. So you'll have $50 in your account. I think it's a pretty good offer. Like, I mean, I actually think it's a fun time, like a fun way to like actually enjoy Call of Duty in different ways. Use code SALVATIONS at their store, and the link's down in the description. So make sure to use that link. Otherwise they don't know that I sent you. And then, that's kind of lame. So please use the link down in the description. Without further ado, let's finally get into the top 10 players of Vanguard. Let's go. So I had a tough time deciding if I wanted to do the top 15 players or the top 10, because there's so many guys in that like 15 to 10 range that could be considered right here for top 10. And so I hated myself having to cut off a handful of these guys and not being there. So off the rip, I wanted to give a handful of honorable mentions to guys because they have been playing really, really, really well throughout this first portion of the season before stage 1. So no particular order, some honorable mentions. Gizmo, Hydra, Dashy, Sib, especially those 4 guys. I was having so much trouble trying to figure out who should be at number 10, number 9, kind of this group of like 6 or 7 guys. And so they ended up missing the cut. But like a guy like Gizmo, someone like who's been absolutely tearing it up, Sib, Hydra, Dashy, all of them have been playing really well. And so it was really hard to distinguish between those 4, 5, 6 guys here near the top 10. So I have no problem with you guys wanting to have any of those guys right here near the top because they've all been elite, to say the least. So without further ado, at number 10 is a guy who's been a staple since joining the CDL, and that's Insight. To be fair, Insight has not been playing his best Call of Duty the past few weeks. So I can see the argument for somebody having them outside the top 10, but at this point, it would feel like a huge overreaction to drop Insight outside of your top 10 players because of like 2 bad performances in matches. Obviously, the Optic series was not his best Call of Duty, and they ended up losing 3-0. Obviously, the whole F8 debate, whatever, but I don't really care about that. Long story short, I totally see Insight bouncing back here at the major, and if not, then we can have a conversation about him not being inside the top 10 for sure, because again, there's some legit talent waiting right outside the top 10, a guy like Gizmo or Hydra or Dashy or Sib, to bump him there. At number 9, a guy who's been playing insanely well on one of the best teams in the CDL, a team who just beat the Ultra, that's LA Thieves, and that's Kenny. He was absolutely cooking the Ultra in that series. Like that Tuscan hardpoint, my goodness, he was insane. And like the last 3 weeks, basically since the start of stage 1, he's been playing great. Outside of basically the first match, he's been playing amazing. LAT's success has been insane, and like, do not play Kenny and this LAT team on Gavutu. Don't do it, because he's gonna cook you. And that's what we've been seeing happen. His slang, his positioning has been amazing, and we know how talented he is when it comes to gun skill. He's been a blast to watch, and one of the best like flex slayers in the CDL so far this year. And we know his resume speaks for himself as well as a long-term player. Kenny's a guy you want on your team right now. And with how well he's playing here in stage 1, he deserves to be in the top 10 for sure. So at number 8, it's one of the guys who I had a huge debate with. All of these guys were insanely tough. Really, these 7 here were really tough. I think the top 7 kind of like splits themselves a little bit of a tier gap, or at least right now because of the latest performances. But at number 8, we got Pred. Talk about a rookie inside the top 10, and Pred in S&D and Control especially has been one of the best players in the game. This guy has been, especially in Control, He's been debatably the best control player in the game at this point. And then in Search and Destroy, his first bloods have been amazing, and his ability to finesse around the map and his quick movement and just overall instinctual movement to push up the map and then back up the play with his team. We talked about that in a handful of Learn from the Pros videos as well. His S&D play, specifically in his first bloods, is what separates him from Sib, even though Sib has a little bit of the advantage inside hard points. And overall, Pred's been, I think, really consistent throughout all of their matches, even though they've lost their last two. Overall, I think Pred is right there right now, man, as a top 10 player in the league, even as a rookie. So like I said, at number 7 here, I think there is a little bit of a tier gap because these 7 guys have been difference makers for their squads when they're dominating this year. I was tempted to have this player number 7 up towards the top 5 because, man, he's cooking and he really is breaking out from last year. And this is what we talked about a lot in the offseason, but Afro has been on fire with the London Royal Ravens, obviously coming off of their dominant win against Seattle in their final match. But still, the Enigma series is that series against LAG, which is why I'm still a little bit hesitant about some of how they play because of how reliant they are on breaking hard points. But Afro specifically, I mean, my goodness, he continues to show out as one of the best slayers in the CDL. I mean, some of his plays against Seattle, like on Tuscan, where he was like going 35 and 22 and just cooking. Oh my goodness. I think he legitimately has the most underrated movement in the CDL. It is so clean. His slide cancels are as good as it gets in the CDL. How he utilizes cammering around angles and playing shoulders. That baseline gun skill generally pops out at some point throughout every single game. And we saw that against Seattle on that Tuscan. I mean, against the Rocker in week 2, we saw that on Tuscan as well with how fast he was playing and just insane game. And then like even back in week 1, like, you know, against Optic, we saw him playing incredible as well, like that Berlin hard point and things like that. So he's just been insanely consistent. I mean, even across like all 3 game modes, he's been fantastic. S&D is a great first blood guy in S&D as well. And then in control, we've seen him slang and putting up big numbers too. So man, he's just been a balanced player for the London Royal Ravens. There's a reason why they're one of the favorites heading into the stage 1 major. But realistically, that trio of Afro, Nasty, and Gizmo has been the real deal. And even Zero's playing great, which is why I think everyone's feeling pretty good about London heading into the stage 1 major. So now at number 6 and number 5, this was the debate between me with Afro and then Cammy at number 6. I mean, he obviously didn't have a good series against Optics. That's kind of the question. But overall, I think you got to give Cammy and those Toronto guys the benefit of the doubt after even a bad performance against Optic. Fully expect them to still bounce back, like I talked about with Insight. Long story short, Cammy's still been one of the best players in the CDL in respawns. I mean, especially in control, he's been a stud, one of the best in the league in control. And so overall, you gotta love Cammy with the automaton in this game and his slaying ability as well. And he's been a beast. And then you move on to number 5 here and his teammate, which is why it's a little bit of the debate between him and Afro as well. But CleanX is at number 5. He's been absolutely electric inside hardpoint for the Ultra, especially dating back to the kickoff event. CleanX's pace has been insane. I mean, I think he's like number 2 in hardpoint kills per 10 minutes, and he's like top 3 in hardpoint damage per 10 minutes. And then he's also an elite first blood guy as well so far this year. So CleanX has been doing everything right in Vanguard. It really plays to his play style, ratty, fast, and slay heavy. And so CleanX has been right up there with the literal best in the game. At number 4, this comes as no surprise to any Optic fan out there because Shotzzy has been on a tear and he's here at number 4. I mean, obviously the Ultra series really cemented him back into the top 5. Even in that week 3, he played great in S&D, like against Boston, and that Bocage, like against Paris earlier in the stage. Like, I mean, there's just moments where you're like, this guy is for real. Some of the plays he puts on are insane. Like, not to mention the slaying masterclass against the Rocker in week 1. So, I mean, Shotzzy does it all, and there's a reason why people love watching this guy play. I mean, do you guys see that clip of him when he was streaming and he like no looked from the monitor and just pre-fired the guy coming up the stairs on Bocage? Like, you know, he's got the game down to a T already. And the scary thing is, normally Shotzzy gets better as the year goes along because, like, dating back to Modern Warfare and Cold War, he was at his worst in stage 1. That's not boding well for the rest of the CDL if Shotzzy's already playing as good as he is right now. So on to the top 3. I mean, I'm going to talk about all 3 of these guys at once because I think there's no doubt in my mind that the top 3 players in the CDL right now are all on Atlanta FaZe. And the crazy thing is that the MVP from last year, Simp, might be the worst of those three right now. Even though we saw Simp really play well in week 3, and FaZe is now 5-0 in the CDL as the favorites heading into stage 1. Simp was struggling earlier on, and like really across all three game modes, not seeing the best of Simp. But in week 3, we saw the Simp we were waiting to see frying across all 3 game modes. Like that hard point against the Rocker where he went like 14-4, and then you move on to the NYSL series and he went like what, 31-21 in the hard point Berlin. So did a Beezy was cooking too. And like then you see him sniping on Tusker for the first time to make it look so easy. And so overall, Simp is a beast, and I mean it's really close between him and a Beezy. You could give it a toss up. I'm sure after the major I'll probably have Simp ahead of a Beezy now, but again, a Beezy at number 2, and I mean that means that Cellium is at number 1. So let's talk about a Beezy real quick. And a Beezy, obviously still a first blood god in this game. Shocker. And like I'll be breaking it down inside some more learn from the pros moments, but some of his plays on Tuscan so far this year have been insane, where he like against NYSL, he found a first blood on Crim6, top vines on the map, then wrapped all the way through the map to pinch P5, went up the stairs, found a 2-piece round. Like Beezy in S&D is truly a menace. And right now he has the highest S&D first blood rate. He has a top 5 hardpoint kills per 10 minutes. And he also has a top 5 KD in the game. So he's doing it all. You know, the problem is he's getting outshined by the player who truly is doing it all. And that's Cellium. I mean, there has barely been a game where Cellium hasn't played well. Currently, he has a 1.29 overall KD in the game. That is 0.09 better than the next best. In S&D is really where Cellium's shined probably the most, and he's been dominating. I mean, just frying. Not to mention in control. Maybe in control you could even argue that he's been better. But that's nothing new for Cellium, because I mean, Cellium was barely the best player in control last year in Cold War. So overall, those 3 have been insane, and Arcades is just there commanding the troops, giving them call outs, showing them where they need to be. And we did that little breakdown of FaZe on Bocage Hardpoint with Cellium having the automaton out and how they've been using the 2 ARs and really changing the meta. And that's why I think most people are pretty confident in them heading into the stage 1 majors. So there it is, guys, the top 10 players. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Again, shout out PrizePicks, use code Salvations. Really appreciate you guys for checking that out. It's the best way to support myself and the channel. I'm trying to do this full time, and I cannot do that without you guys. And I think it's actually a fun way to legitimately enjoy Call of Duty more. So long story short, check out this podcast. It's an absolute banger. Predictions for the kickoff event, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Peace.